Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel and the podcast. Barbora Krejcikova is the 2024 Wimbledon champion. She has beaten Jasmine Paolini in 3 sets, 6-2, 2-6, 6-4. And I've also got with me,
Hi guys, Ash here.
and we've just come out of the press conferences for Barbora Krejcikova and also Jasmine Paolini. And me and Ash have pulled off the greatest accomplishment I think that you could think of, because we managed to get a question to each of the players. I managed to get a question to Paolini and Ash to Krejcikova. So yeah, we will be uploading those, of course, onto the channel as well. So check those out in the playlist. On the interview playlist, even on YouTube, because they'll be on there, and we'll snip those up because I think both answers are pretty good actually, from both players. And Krejcikova is kind of renowned for giving shorter answers in her pressers, but actually the one that she gave Ash was pretty good. I'll take credit for the question, but Ash delivered it very well, executed very nicely. So in terms of the final, then it was in the end 3 sets, and I predicted yesterday that Jasmine Paolini would get the win in 3 sets, but it turned out that Barbora Krejcikova, and I'm sure lots of you have already heard about this, but of course following in the footsteps of a lot of other Czech champions, Petra Kvitova, Vondrousova last year, and of course one of her idols, I guess, and role models, and someone that she had a lot of connection with, and unfortunately passed away in recent times, Yana Novotná, who won Wimbledon in 1998. And if you listen to the press conference, you'll hear a lot about that, so you probably don't need us to talk about it a lot because there are a lot of questions from the journalists on it. But Ash, I mean, first thoughts on the match, and obviously you got to sit in the nice media seats as well, so you had a prime viewing experience even of it. So what are your thoughts on the match as a whole?
I thought it was a brilliant final, really, from start to finish. I was a bit concerned after the first set that it might be over pretty quickly because Paolini really didn't start very well, looked pretty nervous. But she got going, and the second set played really well. And then the third set really felt like it was anyone's match to win. Very topsy-turvy, could have gone either way. Costly double fault for Paolina, I think, did swing the momentum in favour of Krejcikova, who faltered a bit trying to close it out, but eventually got the job done. And I thought it was just a really entertaining, high-quality final.
Yeah, that was, I think, 3-all in the deciding set, where it was 30-40, if I'm not mistaken, and she double faulted Jasmine Paolini. So I could be wrong, but from memory, that's what it was. And that was a big turning point, as you say. And the first set was very reminiscent of that Donna Vekic semi-final. She lost that first set 6-2 as well, and Krejcikova was just serving really well, and similar to what Vekic was doing, being able to be the aggressor, stay close to the baseline, push Paolini around. And Paolini, despite being the athletic, kind of pocket rocket she is, was unable to really grab momentum in that first set. From the second set onwards, she broke straight away after holding serve. So the most important thing, I think, in that opening service game in the second set or opening game was for her to hold serve. She did, and then it was scoreboard pressure. She managed to break Krejcikova with a fantastic return game. We were at that time watching it together in the commentary box, so fantastic. We got to watch together, and then yeah, I mean, from then on, it was definitely a strong second set from Paolini. Took the set 6-2, if I'm not mistaken, and she looked fantastic, I think, in that. And what she was doing really well was, which she mentioned herself in the post-match press conference, is she went closer to the lines. She mentioned that Krejcikova generally was hitting the ball very deep. She was also staying close to the baseline, trying to press her. And she said, I need to do the same thing from the second set onwards. And she said, I served a bit better. I wish she was. I think she was ramping up a little bit. She was hitting her spots a bit better. But first set percentage was a bit higher. And she was backing it up a lot better as well from the back of the court. We saw her slice a couple of times, trying to vary it up. Not really in her game generally, but look, I mean, she gave it a really good go. Some good points were on the net from both players. Actually, it was great to see both players coming forward. Yep. They've got good hands. So it was a nice, varied final and some fantastic tennis on display. But yeah, that third set, as you said, could have gone either way. And in fact, at 5-4, there was a 16-point game. And Krejcikova saved... Well, first of all, she had 2 match points and Paolini saved those. And then Krejcikova had 2 match points. herself, and Paolini managed to swap those away. Then Krejcikova took it at the third time of asking, and it was a fantastic serve out wide that did the job. And there were a couple of double faults in there as well, which of course didn't help Krejcikova's case. But you can always expect nerves, and although she's a Grand Slam champion at Roland Garros and also has won multiple doubles Grand Slam titles, her first ever Wimbledon title, given that she'd barely won any matches this year coming into it, I'm sure it would have been a surreal moment for her. But Paolini fought till the end. I mean, she really did. She almost, you do wonder if she'd broken in that 5-4 game, goes 5-all, and it probably sets up a fantastic, tiebreaker, which we got against, with her against Vekic in the semi-final, but it wasn't to be. But at least that last game was entertaining, to say the least, and definitely some nervy points, I think, from both, but to be expected. What were your thoughts in the press conference that we've just been to for both players?
I think for me, certainly from the Paolini press conference, I get the sense that she's super proud of her achievements, not just in this tournament, but this whole year, making the French Open final, winning in Dubai as well. So it seems like she's really proud of the changes and developments she's made. And she genuinely seems to believe that she can win a major, which she has every right to do. So it's definitely exciting. It seemed quite a, despite it being a runners-up press conference, seemed very positive. And I'm looking forward to seeing what she can go on to achieve, because she's a super likable character with a great game. The crowd loved her on centre court.
They did, didn't they? I mean, they were cheering for her throughout, and then at that 5-4 game, I think it almost helped propel her to break. And they were really obviously they wanted more tennis, but I think they love her as well, and they said it after, didn't they?
Yeah. She definitely won the Wimbledon crowd over, and just really kind of refreshing personality, and excited to see where her career goes from here.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, she was great in the press conference, and she always gives a lot of time to the media, and she gave me a good answer, considering I was first up, and I asked her a pretty tricky one about, what she thought the difference was emotionally and the experience as a whole between the Roland Garros final that she obviously competed in against Swiatek not too long ago, and this one today. And her answer was good, and I won't go into it in too much detail, because off the top of my head, I don't know exactly what she said, and we'll upload that anyway so you guys can have a listen to it. But yeah, she's very thoughtful, and I think she's very realistic. She knows, look, I mentioned it yesterday, she hadn't won a match on grass until this year. And, only a month ago, she was walking into one of the warm-up tournaments and managed to win, a couple of matches here or there, and then came into Wimbledon and has been a revelation. So it's fantastic for her. I think it was a little bit of a bonus for her to make the final, in all honesty. But once she got, I think, to the quarterfinal, semi-final stage, she was thinking, look, I can do this. And the draw opened up, obviously. It wasn't to be today. And hopefully she isn't going to be I don't want to say Ons Jabeur, because I've got my hopes that I'm hoping she'll win one. But on the men's side anyway, you've got someone like a Casper Ruud who is looking less and less likely that he's going to be able to win a slam after making 3 Grand Slam finals. And Paolini doesn't want to be in that same position, and she's in a great position. She's made back-to-back Grand Slam finals, and she'll take the momentum hopefully into the Olympics and onwards. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how she gets on. She's now the number 5 in the world as well, so fantastic jump up in the rankings for her, and it will help her, of course, in tournaments to come. So keep an eye out for her, and let's see how she does, I guess, on the hard courts, where she's had some decent success, but maybe not her best surface. But she'll keep on smiling on court, and she is a fantastic personality. So definitely a great addition, I think, to not just the top 10 but the top 5. And she's definitely got the will and the spirit to be a champion. It's just whether her game can match, and she's definitely aware that she's a work in progress still, and there's still things to improve on and learn. And she's very thoughtful in that aspect. What about Krejcikova then, Ash? Because obviously she did the presser, and I think generally speaking from the week, I mean, I think to be polite about it, she gives pretty direct answers, I think is the right way to say it. And I think we have to give her a bit of compensation in the fact that it's not her first language as well. And I know with Paolini it's not, but I just feel like Paolini's a bit of a different character. With Krejcikova, I think she's had some different experiences with the media in the past, and I think she tends to answer the questions pretty briefly. You got a pretty good answer out of her actually today, to be honest, and she was clearly very happy. Said after that it was the best day of her life. So clearly, this Wimbledon title was above the Roland Garros title, despite that being her first singles Grand Slam title. And she was just, I think, super surprised about winning it. It was almost surreal to her, and I don't think she expected to win. She had a really tough first round against Kudermetova, who could have gone as far as the quarterfinals, semi-finals. That's the type of player she is on grass. Big serving, big hitting player. It was a battle, 7-5 in the third set, and then from there she went from strength to strength. And of course beating Rebecca, the 2022 champion, in the semi-finals as well. So it was an impressive run, to say the least. It wasn't easy, despite, if you look on paper, the finalist being Paolini, who's inexperienced, but generally as a whole, it wasn't an easy route. What did you think of her press conference and also her general performance, I guess, at Wimbledon, Ash?
I mean, in terms of the press conference, it was a bit more hostile maybe than the Paolini conference, which is surprising given who won.
Yeah.
But I got the sense that this was really a dream come true for her, and a huge milestone in what's been already a very successful career. I think she perhaps feels that maybe she hasn't got the credit she's deserved for all her double successes, but winning this tournament, I mean, that's how you kind of silence any kind of doubters. So I got the sense that this was a huge milestone for her, and she said, I mean, in response to my question, she really had to dig deep to get the win today. Paolini, I think, really grew into the match and started testing her in many ways, but she had the answers and deserved the win, I think, in the end. In terms of her tournament as a whole, I mean, you said it yourself. That's the beautiful thing about tennis, I think, is you can be so close to going out at such an early stage, but you're only a few matches away from winning the entire thing. And if you can build that momentum, beating Rebecca is a huge statement, in a semi-final, going into the final, off the back of that is huge. And I feel like she really believed she could win it. We saw her practicing and she looked super chill, super calm and composed, just going through the motions.
Yeah. It looked like it was only a 15-minute warm-up. Pretty much, yeah. I mean, maybe it wasn't, but if it was a 15-minute warm-up, then she knows what she's doing, because she went on one. So
yeah, she was just hitting down in the service boxes down the middle for half of that as well. Yeah. So super comfortable and confident, and I think that carried itself over onto centre court and got the job done. And congratulations to her.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that she managed to hold her nerves as well together in that 5-4 game, she could have got super frustrated with the double faults and the match point save by Paolini, and the seesaw game that it was. And Paolini played a couple of really good points as well, so she could have been thinking, oh sugar, what's happening here? But she held together very nicely, and she gave a very mature answer in the press conference when they asked her about, I think it was Ubaldo asked, look, it was a long game and you double faulted, and what was happening there? Why was it so difficult? Because you hadn't, you only lost 4 points, I think it was, on serve in that set or something. And she said, look, to paraphrase, she said it's understandable that happened, because of course it's going to be difficult to serve it out because of the nerves. And she's very much a realist in that aspect, and maybe sometimes when you have players from other countries that where English isn't their first language, sometimes they can be a bit misinterpreted even. So maybe her kind of hostile, kind of more direct way of answering questions is maybe not even because she doesn't. It might not be to do with the fact that she doesn't like the question, or she doesn't maybe like the media as much. It might just be to do with the fact that it doesn't directly translate. And sometimes in culturally people can be more direct. Generally, like Americans are generally very direct, and in the UK we're all very much like, please, thank you. We beat around the bush a little bit, and we don't want to try and put anyone out, generally speaking. But look, I mean, a fantastic win, and as she said, it came out of nowhere. Where does she go from here? Well, I think she just needs to stay fit and healthy, and Look, she's an all-court player. You know, she'll be there or thereabouts at the US Open if she's fit. I'm not saying she'll necessarily win it, but she will be in the conversation given she's just won Wimbledon. And look, she's got a very varied game, and Paolini said it in her presser. Look, she's a complete player. That's what she said, and you know, that's high praise from Jasmine. And look, as you said, she was super confident in large periods of that final, where she just looked like she was just at home, like in the zone, dialed in, and she just didn't seem at all, in my opinion anyway, like she was letting the occasion eat her up. She was just relishing it almost. And actually, you know what? We have to say fair play also to Paolini, because her first Wimbledon final, and again, I don't think the nerves really got to her. I think in the first set she just said she was a little bit cautious, maybe, and wasn't. Maybe she was a bit tight from the nerves, but she did really well in the second set onwards to then kind of get through that. So, yeah, Krejcikova is our 2024 women's singles champion at Wimbledon. Ash, anything you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I think it's this final is a testament to how exciting the game is at the moment. On the women's side, it's you know, we've had a running joke about how it's been 7 now 8 different Wimbledon champions in the last 8 years, but it's just exciting how anyone can kind of build momentum and go on a run at Wimbledon, and before you know it, can be champion. And congratulations to Krejcikova and Paolini on a fantastic tournament, and excited to see what the both of them can do. I mean, there's kind of been a running theme with Paolini that she's a late bloomer, but there's still plenty more tennis to be played in her career. Krejcikova's had an incredibly successful career to date, and I've no doubt can go on to achieve more success.
Yeah, 100%. As you say, both 28 years old, and they're very young. I mean, I'm 30, so 2 years younger than me. So they're super young. And look, I mean, they've got a lot of years left in front of them, I'm sure. And as you say, the women's side of tennis at the moment is super deep. I would argue that it's even more exciting because there's just so many players that can beat other players. And on the men's side, you have a few players like Alcaraz, Djokovic, Sinner, Medvedev. I feel like those are the 4 where they're super consistent. They're making a lot of semis, a lot of finals, they're winning slams. And, you know, you kind of think you're not surprised to see them, you know, in the final 4. But the rest of the field are maybe lagging behind a bit, I think it's fair to say, generally speaking, because they're not as consistent. And they have their moments, but they're just not as consistent. Whereas on the women's side, I feel like there's, you know, you've got Rebecca, you know, who's won a slam the last couple of years. She's also, you know, made some deep runs. She's, you know, won some Masters 1000 tournaments, etc. And she seems to be a real tough matchup for Sabalenka and Swiatek. Then you've also got Coco Gauff, just won the US Open last year, and, you know, has made some deep runs as well at slams. You've got Swiatek, who's the Queen of Clay, also won a US Open title, but there are some question marks around, you know, how consistent is she on the hard court slams and the grass court slam and Wimbledon, US Open, and Australia, because yes, she's won the US Open, but she hasn't made particularly deep runs at the Australian Open. Wimbledon, she's never got past the 4th round. And then, of course, you've got, you know, Sabalenka, who's won the Australian Open twice, and, you know, has made, last year she was misconsistent even, making at least a semi-final of each slam. But this year it's not been the same, right? And so they've got those 4, and then you just chuck in your Jabeur, who's made the final last year. Vondroušová won the title, Wimbledon last year. Now you've got Krejcikova, who's throwing herself back in the mix, who won a slam in 2021. Paolini's coming up, and, you know, you've got so many good players. Sakkari's kind of, you know, in the top 10. Can she break through? There's so many great stories on the WTA side. You know, Jabeur, can she finally win a slam? You know, there's all these incredible stories coming about. These younger players coming through. We've got Mira Andreeva made the semi-final of Roland Garros last, you know, a couple of months ago even. There's just so much going on the WTA side, and so many talented players that it's fantastic to see. And we saw, you know, obviously Raducanu playing better this year. Lulu Sun, who I was watching in qualifying, she came through, ridiculous run from her. Donna Vekic as well. She was struggling with injuries like Krejcikova for a couple of years, 2021, 2022. She's now back, looking good. Semi-final, heartbreaking loss to Paolini, but she could be, you know, the way that she was playing, she plays like that against most players. She'll beat them, and she'll start doing some really good things. So look, there's a lot going on in women's tennis, I think, and it's a lot more open and in a positive way. I think at one point in women's tennis, it was almost like a lottery who's going to win. You know, that's not quite the case in the moment. We are kind of sharing Grand Slams. Krejcikova's won two.
Yeah.
You know, Rebecca's won one. Sabalenka's won two. Shonga's won, you know, multiple, more than two. I think five, if I'm not mistaken. And, you know, you've got Kogoff's won one. So these girls, you know, in the top five, majority of them have won at least a slam. So that's kind of what you want, right? In terms of consistency. You don't want necessarily the only 2 or 3 players winning slams, but you also don't want you know, you don't just want it just being spread across everyone. So you need that balance. And I feel like women's tennis is in that beautiful equilibrium at the moment where there's just so much going on with it, and there's not one player dominating, because even though Swiatek is fantastic generally, she's so good in Master 1000 tournaments, but in the slams she hasn't had that consistency, and she does have some, you know, maybe less favourable matchups with, say, Sabalenka on a hard court grass court, Rebecca on a hard court grass court, you know, Coco Gauff on a hard court, or even a grass court, right? And on grass, well, her versus anyone on grass, anything could happen. And on hard court, she's got some other players that could challenge her. So, yeah, it's fantastic. You know, very much looking forward to the rest of the year on the WTA side. Olympics coming up on clay. Sure, it's going to be the heavy favourite. They've got the US Open. Coco Gauff will defend her title there, and see whether she's able to do that successfully. But yeah, anything else, sorry, Ash, before we wrap it up?
I think that's it from me.
So I've just completely previewed the whole of the rest of the year. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And make sure to hit that like button. Do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating review if you're listening on a podcast platform. Also, shout out to our members on YouTube. Your contribution to the channel is really, really appreciated. And you know, we appreciate each and every one of you liking, subscribing, commenting. It all helps. So that's the reason why we're able to be here at Wimbledon. And if you're wondering why we're doing audio, and if you haven't listened to the other podcasts, we've got media accreditation, so we're allowed to obviously ask questions in presses and do interviews with players, but we have to do audio for long form content whilst recording on site anyway. So guys, thanks so much. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you on the next video and podcast.